السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم تسليما كثيرا أما بعد، فقد قال الله تعالى في القرآن المجيد والفرقان الحميد: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم، بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وقالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا ولا سواعا ولا يغوث ويعوق ونسرا. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Just a little recap, inshallah, before we talk about our next prophet, and that will be Nuh alayhi salam. I just want to wrap up the story of the two sons of Adam alayhi salam. The two stories you mentioned after Qabil killed Habil. What happened after that was Qabil confronted his parents or whatnot. They were obviously upset with him. What was meant to be a joyous occasion of the marriage of 2 or 4 individuals became the murder of one of the children. So Qabil ran away, and that story ends there when it comes to Quran. The only thing that I want to mention, it's not mentioned in Quran, we learn in Hadith, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 5 years after this murder, blessed Adam alayhi salam with a birth in which there were no twins. And it was just this son. This was 5 years after this murder, and this son's name was Sheeth alayhi salam. So, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes something away from you, He gives you something better, you don't even realize it. But He doesn't give it to you right away. He gives it to you over time. When who is Sheeth alayhi salam? Allah blessed him so much that he became the prophet after Adam alayhi salam. So meaning Allah blessed them with a child that became the next prophet. So that's something that we really need to understand, that if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to take something away from us, it's never because He hates us, or He wants to hurt us, or He doesn't care about us, or He doesn't understand how we feel about it. It's because maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to replace it with something better. We also learned this same lesson in Salatul Taraweeh. We learned the same lesson. If you don't know what I'm talking about, then maybe one day, inshallah, we'll talk about it. There, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took a child and then replaced that child with another child that was better than what that child would have become in Allah's best. The next prophet is Nuh alayhi salam. But before I talk about Nuh alayhi salam, we need to understand what was happening in the world. And there's a very valuable lesson to be learned from this. So what happened was, for many generations, people followed and believed in Allah, the oneness of Allah. They worshipped Allah in whatever capacity Adam alayhi salam had taught them, in whatever capacity Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had told mankind to worship Him. And that continued for some time. A time once came where Shaitan is very, very patient. More patient than maybe all of us combined. He's very patient. So he sees this happening. And remember, his promise to Allah was what? I will sit on the straight path. We read this yesterday. I will sit on the straight path, trying to dissuade them from it. The only people I won't be able to harm, illa ibadak as-salihin. So he lies in wait, and he plots, and he plans. And see, he's not limited by time, and he has a lot of patience. So what does he do? As is the case, you're going to find people who strive more in worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's just the way it works. You're going to find individuals that are very righteous, and they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala extremely. And we can recognize them sometimes. These days it's hard to recognize them, but we can recognize them sometimes. And they worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you know, as a matter of fact, we know, a month ago, or 2 months ago, or a little over a month ago, a great man passed away, Dr. Ismail. If you knew him, you would agree with me and you would understand his value. He was a really great man, and may Allah forgive him and put nur in his grave and make it easier for his family. So, as is the case, you're going to find righteous individuals. And so, there were 5 righteous individuals that slowly over time passed away. So now Shaitan, he makes a plan. He comes to the people and he says to the people, what do you think about so-and-so? Of course, they said, he was a great man. They were great men. They were very righteous. We knew that if we needed something, we would go to them to make dua for us, because we knew they had a closer connection and relationship with Allah. So he says, yeah, that's good. But don't you think we should do something in their honor to remember them? Yeah. Don't you love them? Don't you have respect for them? We do. So then we should do something to remember them. We should have a party. So that's not what he said. That's what people say today. And they say they always need an excuse for food. That's all people need. So what does he say? He says, let's draw pictures of them. And we will remember them by looking at those pictures. Okay? We'll make pictures. And so they make pictures. Shaitan is no fool. So he waits. Not days, not months, but years. And this becomes a normalcy everywhere you go. Everybody has pictures of these great scholars, great saints. And who are these saints, by the way? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions them in Quran. I just recited that. لا تذرن قالوا لا تذرن آلهتكم ولا تذرن ودا سواع يغوث يعوق نصرا. These are 5 righteous scholars who turned into something else eventually. Not them themselves, but what they became to them. So he comes to them after some time and he says, you know, we just have pictures of them. And that's really not doing much, you know. Most we do is we remember them, we see them. How about this? We should go one step further. And he says, let's build statues for them in their honor. You know, in any sport, and maybe I relate to sports more because it's something I have a passion for. When there's a person that excels on a team for a long time, after some time, they eventually build a statue of him to memorialize him, to remember him. So he says, let's build a statue for them. And so they say, yeah, you know, that makes sense. We should build statues for them. They were great people. We have a lot of respect for them. And out of respect for them, we should build statues for them. And Shaitan waits. And here's what happens. And this is a lesson we really need to understand. There's 2 lessons I want to point out here. He waits. Now the people who built these statues, or the people who were alive when it was built, they knew the purpose. Shaitan didn't come and say, worship them yet. What has he said so far? Just build them and respect it. And so they respect it. And as is the case, when you and I, we visit the grave of the Prophet ﷺ, we make dua near the grave of the Prophet ﷺ. We are ultimately asking Allah. We are using the Prophet ﷺ as a wasila, as a means to get to Allah. But we are asking Allah. So you make dua by the Prophet ﷺ's grave, but you make dua to Allah. But we know there's a special aura in that area. So these people started their day making dua by these statues. They were in their homes eventually. Because to them, it was a source of blessing. Not an idol to worship. But what happens after a long time goes by, their children didn't know that. Or they didn't understand that. All they saw was that my dad would come to the masjid. I don't know why he'd come to the masjid. So Maybe I'll come to the masjid every Jummah if I feel like it, or every Ramadan if I feel like it, and I'll come, and if I don't have to. My father never told me why to come to the masjid. Everybody understand the point I'm trying to highlight here? So what did they do? They said, my father used to take blessing from it. Maybe they took the blessing from those individuals literally, as opposed to taking a blessing as a means from them to Allah. Everybody understand the difference? One is to use them as a means, but not ask them, but through them. And another is to ask them. We never ask the righteous saints. We ask them to make dua to Allah for us. There's a difference. But the children didn't know the difference. And what started as pictures out of respect became idol worshipping. And this is how idol worshipping came on this earth to mankind. And I want you to understand two things. One thing I already highlighted. Your children won't follow the same thing you follow until you teach them and you bring them to the masjid and you explain to them. They will fall into traps. They won't understand what it means to be Muslim. They won't understand what it means to fast because they just saw you but they never understood it. That's number one. Number two, I said something. Shaitan is very patient. And the way he works is that he comes at you, and depending on your level of iman, he comes at you and he just says one thing, just to get you started. Just to get you started. And once you get started, then he waits. He's not impatient. He's not like, okay, I told him a week ago and now I'm going to say something else grander than that. He'll wait. He'll wait. He'll wait until he can establish that thing as a habit of yours. And when you do it habitually, it's not haram maybe. It's just not the best thing to do. And then slowly, he takes one thing, he takes another thing. And I always say this for the youth, and it's a lesson to every single one of us. Sometimes Shaitan uses deen as a means to take you away from deen. Or make you do something haram at least. What I mean by this is, sometimes you talk to the opposite gender because they're asking you Islamic questions. It's all halal, it's meant to be okay, you're answering questions. But then he uses that to lay traps on the way. Lay traps on the way. And then that's how he gets you. So like I said, sometimes Shaitan even uses deen against you. So be very careful of adu wal mubin, of the open enemy. Now, last thing we'll say is 10 generations later, about 1,000 years later, 1,026 years later, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent in this world a prophet by the name of Nuh. But that wasn't his actual name. What was his actual name? Well, you guys can tell me tomorrow, inshallah. Well,